And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Signposts Live. I was not able to get my second camera working for some reason. I was trying to do that last minute, try to get my second camera for the tarot, but it's not working. So technology has it's been on the fritz for the past couple of days. So anyways, I'm going to have to use one camera when we get into the tarot reading here today. We will be doing a Zodiac Tarot Spread on the system program. So if you guys aren't too sure what I'm talking about pertaining to the system program, there is a webcast that I just did yesterday on wisdom transmissions where I brought in Adronis, and he was giving a lot of profound information pertaining to the idea of a system program, otherwise known as a type of AI system. It was kind of a long story, but the best way to summarize it is that all of Earth, all of humanity has basically been monitored and influenced by a very powerful AI system that has been around for many thousands of years, and that there is a particular way of breaking free out of that AI system, and that again goes into the nature of going inwards, right, and moving past, getting out of the pain body, in a manner of speaking, and basically being able to get out of the glass ceiling of control that has been on this planet for many thousands of years. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend you watch it. It was very, very profound. A lot of great information on it. Today, we're going to be looking a little bit more into the investigation of this particular system program, as Adronis puts it. There have been others as well, too. There have been other experts and speakers over the years who have also talked about AI integration on the Earth, how AI works, how there's kind of like a rogue AI, and it basically has been working with the population of this planet for a very long time, basically creating a lot of state of influences. And those influences are basically discouraging people to evolve themselves, discouraging people to go into greater heights, discouraging people to go into peace, discouraging people to go into joy, discouraging people to go into love, right? So, like I said, it was a really, really big topic. So I really suggest you guys watch it if you haven't. But we're going to look into that today. After the Zodiac spread, we're going to go into announcements, and then we'll be getting into any questions that any of you have who are watching this now live. So I'm just going to go ahead and get things ready for the Tarot Zodiac spread. Now I have to adjust the camera here. So like I said, I'm just kind of a one camera wonder today. So let's see here. Okay, I'm hoping that will do the job. Probably not. Let's see here. This is where it gets tricky. This is where I like to have that second camera. I'm just going to move some stuff around. Okay, so hopefully this will do the trick. I will do my best to get the all the cards up on the desk here for the Tarot Zodiac. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to ask that question to provide a little bit more information in regards to this system program. What is the system program? What is its future, right? What is it? What is its demise in that way? What is it going to lead to? Is it going to fade away? Is it going to be destroyed? Is it going to be taken down, right? Just anything that can be shared pertaining to this AI system program that has had its clutches upon the earth for many thousands of years. And talking more about that and seeing what we get. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do this way. Okay, so this is Aries. See if I can move it over here. Okay. That's the tricky part, is just making sure it appears okay on camera. Okay, so Aries will be right here. This is Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, let's get these cards together. There we go. And then the 13th card is us in the middle, how we are responding to all of this. Okay. So overall, it actually looks pretty promising with what is happening to it. Okay. So the first card here is that this is telling me, when we're looking at Aries, this card really has to do with emotional maturity. Okay, so I'll hold it up here so you can see it a bit better. Okay, this card, Queen of Cups, really represents emotional maturity, which means it's kind of like a coming of age. There's a reason why this particular type of AI has been placed there, right? It has been placed by beings that are quite malevolent, but it was also in a way allowed to be placed there as part of humanity's journey forward and maturing themselves. It's almost kind of like a deliberate obstacle, a deliberate hurdle that needed to be placed there to basically get humanity into a state of maturity. So I mean, even when we look at really horrible things, they all have a meaning, right? They're dark teachers, the best way I could put it. And that really is what represents this particular system program. This AI system program that has been here for many thousands of years is a dark teacher. And it's basically there to basically put humanity in points of despair so that there will be a maturing, so that they're not relying so much on the externals to try and resolve their own problems. They're going to learn how to become a lot more mature because they see that all of the influence that's being brought forward from this AI, how it's reflected back to people of authority, to governments, to leaders, to everything, to parents, right? To everybody on this planet, is helping people to move into a state of maturity. So it's kind of like a coming of age ceremony relating to this implementation of this AI that has been here for many thousands of years. Now, this is aspecting the seventh house, which is Libra. Okay. So this is helping to look at things on a much more collective level. This is what it's going to bring as we start to mature. Through maturity, we start to see much more intelligent humans. We start to see humans who are now starting to mature. They are not hopelessly depending upon the government. They are not hopelessly depending on others to try and run their life. They're actually starting to become responsible. They're starting to become mature. And Adronis was talking about this the other day, is that there's 95% and 5%. 95% of the people in that sense are succumbing to this rogue AI system program that will, again, keep them down in the dumps, basically keep them inside a pain body, right? As long as you're inside a pain body, you're trapped inside that glass house, and everything is about control. But when you start to work within, when you start to work with yourself, when you start to go inwards, you start to work with all of your problems and you bring them into a state of peace. That's what's helping you to break free of this glass house and no longer be affected by the influences of the outer world, be it with AI, be it with anybody else in that nature. The entire system program, I feel, is even more than just an AI. It really just represents the status quo of what we think modern living on this planet represents. So we're seeing that particular situation unfold. Now, he basically says the 5% are the ones that have basically broken free. There's about 500 million people on the planet right now that are completely immune to the effects of the influence of the modern world. We can call it that, the modern world of the system program. So this is really what this is doing, is it's helping with a maturation cycle to bringing people into a much more greater heightening of peace, of maturity, where they're no longer being bogged down by the nature of authority or, again, the status quo of modern living on this planet. Right? So that's really what this is teaching us all together. When we go to the second house, okay, we're going to Taurus here. So Taurus also represents stability and security. It does represent finance, but we're not really looking too much into finance specifically. We're looking more to the system program. People are going to be leaving that system program behind because what's happening right now, specifically throughout this year of 2024, we have seen more and more exposure of a corrupt government. We have seen more and more exposure of corrupt leaders. We're seeing everything now coming out in the open, and people are making better choices. And those choices are to leave the old system behind, to move into something new, to demand that there is significant change that each and every single one of us brings. So this is representing the idea of flushing out old instability and coming into new stability. We're walking away from the old things and we're going to start moving into the new things. Okay, and that is aspected by Scorpio. And this, of course, is what we're seeing here in the background is there's an influence pertaining to this system program AI. It wants people to fight with each other. It wants people to clash. It wants people to basically battle one another. But it also wants the ones who are basically following its own instructions to prevail, right? But the whole idea is that this rogue AI is running its course. It's finding much more difficulty in being able to offer the type of influence that's needed to keep everything in check. Not to mention that there are also task forces off-world that are basically hunting this AI down and basically attempting to take it out. But it is a very, very sophisticated artificial intelligence system. It is a rogue AI. No one really knows where it came from. No one really knows how it got here. It's been theorized that, again, probably one of the old claimants of this world that are basically technocratic or AI prophets basically deposited it here, or were basically told to deposit it here, and basically have a vessel of it placed either on the moon or in between the Earth and the moon, or on the Earth. We're not entirely sure. But there is some type of rogue AI intelligence. I wouldn't even call it intelligence, but a rogue AI system, which is more appropriate. Because I just don't believe in the idea of artificiality being intelligent. I see that artificiality is being intellectual, it's being ignorant, but it certainly doesn't have the capability of intelligence. To me, it's much more like artificial ignorance. So that's my own perspective. But that's what we're seeing here in Scorpio. We're seeing people fighting back. We're seeing people oppose government rule, oppose government authority. They're not buying into it anymore. They want a better future. They want a better time ahead for themselves. And the rogue AI is basically losing its grasp upon its minions. And a lot of these corporate cronies and corrupt status quo followers just don't have the trust of the people anymore. Nobody trusts the government anymore. Nobody trusts these forms of authorities. And so this is why they're trying to throw hurricanes at people. This is why they're trying to throw earthquakes at people. This is why they're trying to throw floods at people. Nobody is trusting them anymore. So forget it. We don't want to have anything to do with your despicable world anymore. We don't want to have anything to do with your ridiculous status quo of what you think life should be, right? So this, again, is the rogue AI not being able to follow through with that. And it's going to incite violence, right? Basically try to purge those who defy the old order, right? But it's not working because, like I said, the counter forces are much stronger. When we're looking at the old forces or the dark forces and we're looking at the counter forces are much more stronger. Adronis was also talking yesterday about the situation with the moon. He was going back a couple of years. Sorry, he was speaking a couple of years back. I think it was around 2020, 2021, about the nature of the moon, and that a lot of the rogue AI programs and technology and infrastructure is actually contained on the moon, and that a lot of it is actually being taken down. There's a lot of scuffles being taken down, taking place right now on the moon to take down a lot of that old infrastructure. So the AI is fundamentally losing everything, right? It's being defeated, which is the great news here. Now we're going into the third house, which is Gemini. Okay, so a Gemini here, again, that is all about communication. And when I see the Queen of Pentacles, this means that the communication that's coming together, the time of us working together, is going to become a lot more prominent. This AI is going to lose its voice. It's not going to affect humanity as it once did. It's just one of those archaic things that is going to fall apart. So communication is going to improve a lot more significantly, where we may actually have technology where we're not actually being spied on, surveyed upon. Again, all of that surveying and spying is rogue AI. That is AI status quo right there. When you have phones, when you have computers, when you have any other particular type of digital devices, when you have security cameras, when you have censorship, you have all of these things. I mean, you look at it and you can see just how robotic it all is. It's all robots. It's all artificiality. It's spying. It's like trying to feed a network. Well, who's running this network? really is this rogue AI. So it can get more data, so it can spy on people a lot more, so it can devise, it can influence, right? It's a nasty thing. It's a very, very nasty, despicable thing. But what I'm getting here is that our communication, I think, is going to start being cleaned up. I have talked about just recently, I think it was going back last week, where we were talking about chemtrails, right? And one person on the chat asked about chemtrails and saying, what's happening with the chemtrails situation? Are the chemtrails getting worse? And then I did a reading on it, and I keep getting these. Like several times I have done readings on chemtrails, and I'm saying they're pretty much gone now. There's only some small amounts that remain. Majority is basically being countertrails. Countertrails look very much like common chemtrails, but they're actually cleaning the sky. That's an interesting thing. It's basically absorbing a lot of the aluminum oxide within the sky. This is basically what I'm being told pertaining to that. The same thing goes with 5G technology. Usually the rogue AI in nature was to have 5G technology as a very dangerous weapon, was to weaponize the 5G, basically spewing out very strong amounts of radiation, right? But the 5G towers are actually being reintegrated to move into 432 hertz frequency, which is the same frequency as the sun. So this is what I'm talking about. A lot of the infrastructure that they've been planning to basically control civilization is being transformed into something far better and far healthier for the planet. Chemtrails are now becoming counter trails. 5G towers are now becoming sun towers. You could call them sun towers instead of 5G towers because they're using 432 hertz, the frequency of the sun. So 5G towers are becoming sun towers. Chemtrails are becoming counter trails. So it's very interesting. This is again telling me that communication is now starting to flip, right? There's going to be a lot more. There is going to be an end of censorship. That's the good news. That is going to happen, right? Because we see that just all over the internet with censorship here and there. That's basically, like I said, the left-wing mentality, right? Is wanting censorship. The right-wing mentality is to be free of that. And it looks like the right wing is creating much more favor. And I think over the next few years, we're going to see a lot more cleanup pertaining to surveillance. We're going to see a lot more cleanup pertaining to censorship. A lot of that is going to fall. Okay, like I said, here I am on Rumble, and they're much more accommodating of this particular type of sharing. Whereas where I'm looking on YouTube, it is a censorship beast. Right? I still love the platform that YouTube has, but I do not like about how they conduct business. Of course, I'm sure many of us feel that way. So this is where I'm saying that it's a lot more of a cleanup pertaining to communication. Okay, when we get to the 9th house, which represents Sagittarius, well, Sagittarius is all about truth finding. It's about good fortune. It's about getting into the truth, right? And that is what I feel is going to be happening. I don't know if this rogue AI system is ever going to be mentioned to the public. I'm not even seeing if it's in the near future. You basically have to find it in type of webcasts like this, because you're not going to find that on CNN. But, oh, there's this rogue extraterrestrial AI intelligence that's been on the moon for a long time. No, I don't see that happening at all. So I don't see this particular rogue AI ever really being exposed in the near future or foreseeable future in that way. Perhaps way down the road, maybe, but it is going to be kept a lot of it in secrecy. But there's a balance happening, and really this is all part of people. Like I said, we're all the counter forces, right? Everything pertaining to what's going on in the planet, how we're retaliating, how things are now starting to culminate into these very intense situations is all part of people waking up. It's all part of a greater change that's taking place. It is wonderful to see. And of course, we have to have intensity, because this planet, every square inch of it pertaining to its systems has been completely and totally corrupted, right? And that's exactly what this rogue AI is doing. We don't know what this thing's motives are really altogether, other than really to consume, to learn, to control, right? My guess is it really had a very, very vile creator, and maybe it took over that creator, and it just started to spawn and integrate itself, and it would start to mimic other forms of life. It's a nasty eye. From what Adronis says, it's polymorphic, which means it's basically able to take any particular type of form. It can basically create itself as any particular type of chemical. It can create itself to be any particular type of material. It's completely polymorphic. So it's kind of scary when you look at it. But like I said, this is why they've had have had to consider a long time to take out this AI, because it is completely devious, and it can disguise itself quite easily. But again, you can only really discover its true nature if you're looking at it much more on a subatomic level. This is again what Adronis is sharing. Is you have to have kind of like a scan or an impression of it, looking much more deeper with much more sophisticated and advanced scanning equipment. Right. So this is basically what a lot of these task forces are doing. Is they're basically AI hunters. That's exactly why we have a lot of armadas coming into our star system right now. We've seen that. We've seen a lot of ships coming through our sun. We've seen a lot of craft flying throughout the whole star system, because this is a cleanup sweep. There is a whole cleanup, a whole sweeping down of the entire star system, primarily for AI. Right? AI task forces are basically being brought here and attempting to clean it up. So this has been something that's been rummaging around the galaxy for quite some time as well, from what Adronis has been sharing. This rogue AI is not something that's just native to our star system. It has been all over the place, and they've been doing everything to really clean this up, and they've been doing a very good job. This one here is quite a nasty one, though. But like I said, it's all part of an integration of maturing humanity, so there's a karmic attachment to it, of course, but it is being hunted down altogether. So balance is being done. Truth is being discovered. We are starting to break down a lot of those brick walls that have kept us in the dark. Now we're moving on to the fourth house, which is Cancer. Okay, so with Cancer, with the fourth house, we are seeing, again, abundance. We are seeing abundance. We're seeing, again, looking at property. We're looking at land. We're looking at caregiving. We're looking at nurturing, right? We're there for each other. And that's basically the whole idea, is that you can't rely on the government. You can't rely on a lot of these authority figures, but you can rely on each other. You can rely on the common people. People that have peace in their hearts, people that have love in their hearts. That's who you want to surround yourself with. And that's what we're moving into. We're moving into an age that is going to be much more about cooperation. It is not about people jumping at each other's throats and riots and all that. I mean, even these things that are going on right now, these protests, there's even one like happening in Ontario, Canada here as well too. A lot of these protests that basically say that they're supposed to be very peace-loving. They're breaking windows, they're shattering things, they're violent towards people that have cameras. Those are not in any way organic. That is all, you could say, George Soros type protest riots that are going on there. So these are, again, it's just trying to create more fear. It's trying to basically discourage people from protesting, because if you go into protest, you're just going to find a bunch of violent people. That's exactly why they do it. They basically try to create these fake protests that turn into proxy riots. And basically they're bashing down windows, they're flipping over cars, they're lighting fires, they're burning flags, they're saying death to Canada. Guys, that is such a proxy. Okay, there's nothing organic about that at all. Those are criminals. Those are terrorists. Those are people those are, again, a lot of the migrants that come here, and they're causing chaos. Like I said, they're paid mercenaries. A lot of these are paid criminals that are going in, okay, just do all this, burn the flag and say death to Canada, or death to the USA, or wherever else they are, or to the UK, or anything of that nature. These are all, quite commonly, George Soros funded rioters, okay? And they're basically just causing a bunch of chaos. So that's not what an organic protest is about. I'm pretty sure most of us are already aware of that. Do not be afraid of going out and protesting or rallying, because we know that's not what it's about. But that's what they're trying to do to the sleepers, is try to say, no, if you protest, you could have your life in danger. You'll see people flipping over cars. You'll see people starting fires. You'll see people breaking down windows and bashing windows in and fighting and attacking police and all that. And I said, no. I mean, look back to the Freedom Convoy of what we had here in Canada as well, too. It was completely peaceful. There were bouncy castles, right? It was friendly for kids. There was none of that. But that's what they're trying to implement into the people, that if there's protest, it's going to look like something like this. It's going to look like people flipping over cars. It's going to look like people burning flags and death to this and death to that. That is not real at all. That is Hollywood bullshit being integrated into our culture, thinking that, well, that's what protests are, everybody. That's what rallies are. That's what happens when you do rallies. So don't fall for the BS, because there's going to be a lot more of those things to come as well too, relating to peaceful protests, that is. So again, people are going to stabilize itself despite all of this influence that we've had for thousands of years, be it through an AI or otherwise. Right? People are waking up. Then we go to the 10th house, which represents basically the government. Well, this is pretty self-explanatory when it comes to what's going to happen to the government. So I don't think I need to elaborate on that too much, but through the peace of the people is going to lead to the complete and total destruction of a corrupt government, of a corrupt authority, and everything that represents its branches of corruption. It's all about to die. Right? It even says, just do not concern about this rogue AI. This AI system is a very real thing, but like I said, the more that you're bringing that peacefulness into yourself, this also, to me, represents like the heart of every single person, our own inner livingness, right? Going inside the heart, working with peace, taking care of our problems, being there for other people, being supporters, right? That is going to make a big difference, and that is leading to the destruction of the old. So now we come to the 5th house, which represents the nature of courage, strength, intuition, right? There's a lot of horror going up on the planet right now. There's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of, again, nasty weather patterns that are happening. Like I said, we're looking at the East Coast, and we're seeing like just 3, 4, 5, 6 hurricanes attempting to come in. This is all very, very deliberate, okay? And this is what's happening primarily to the authorities of this planet. They are losing power. They no longer have any particular capability to try to fool the people. Nobody's putting up with their bullshit anymore. And so what are they going to do? They're going to get violent. They're going to get violent. They're going to get abusive. They're going to turn on what little technology they have left, and they're going to try and run amok. And they're basically trying to put out all these hurricanes because they're trying to attack the red states. Okay, so a lot of this is basically an attack on the red states and getting hurricanes there, just demolishing everything, trying to prevent people to vote when you get closer into November, right? So that's really one of their tactics. Just fly over the red states, right? Get these hurricanes to maneuver in a very unnatural way as they're being pushed by HARP, and just move them over into these states to where they shouldn't be. And they're basically attacking the red states. All the red states are basically being attacked by hurricanes. Okay, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get people to not vote in November, trying to keep everything in power. They will do every form of twisted, despicable, low-hanging fruit, devious plan that they can to try to stay in power. It's not going to work. Like, you think, okay, just launching a bunch of hurricanes at red states is going to prevent people from voting. No, you're actually encouraging people to vote more. Like, this is how stupid and desperate they are. It is unbelievable to see how stupid they are. But this is what they're doing. They're constantly tripping over their own feet. They're desperate fools. They don't think things through. They just want to flick switches. Flick switches, get the hurricanes. Like, sir, what is that? I don't care. Just get the hurricanes out, right? Just put them on steroids, maneuver them around the red states. What is that going to do? So I don't care. Just do it. Yeah, that's exactly how they are. They don't think things through. They're brainless. They're completely unintelligent. And they think that that is what's going to help them maintain their empire. But like I said, this has all been predicted. This is going down to prophecies for thousands of years about all of them. Basically, the corrupt is going to try to wage war. They're going to try and fight. They're going to try and unleash all of this hell onto the planet, but it will not succeed. The people's will is too strong, and that's what we're seeing here. This is, to me, this also feels like willpower. But this is, again, kind of like grief, because we're seeing a lot of the horrible things that they're doing on the planet. They are just working. They're messing with weather. They're putting hurricanes on steroids. They're creating riots. They're creating floods. They're creating fires. They're doing all these things to try and maintain power. People won't budge. Okay. They're not going to submit, and they're not going to say, "Oh yes, mighty government. Okay, yes, you're going to give us hurricanes and all that stuff if we don't fall in line." I mean, this makes no sense. It really makes no sense for what they're trying to do. But they don't think these things through. This is like just poking a stick at an angry dog, and all the angry dog knows how to do is bark and snap at you. Okay, and that's what they represent. They're constantly being poked with these sticks because people don't want to have anything to do with them. Counter forces are hunting them down, and this is what they do. They basically just go into war mode because these things are not even human, right? And they don't know how to think for themselves. They're very much like AI, right? All they do is just, okay, well, they are resisting us. Okay, so retaliate, retaliate, retaliate. And that's what they're doing. It's like looking at a machine. It's ridiculous, it's disgusting, it's despicable. But like I said, it's what we need to go through to become a better society. So a lot of societies have gone through similar things to us on other worlds. Okay, not as intense of what humanity has gone through, but they've had to fight through a lot of AI. They've had to fight through a lot of filth and propaganda, right? Especially on the outer rim of galaxies. Whenever you're looking at the outer rim of galaxies, you are looking at these planets that are attempting to initiate young civilizations into the light to bring them further, and they have to go through quite a lot of trials and tribulations through their growth, through their maturity cycle. But we are going to get through this, and we are going to prevail because we have so much support helping us. And that's the wonderful thing. Not just with us, we have support from all over that's assisting us and helping us to clear. So again, this was looking at Aquarius. Aquarius is all about gains as well too. It is also about fact finding, but it's also about the kind of like a nurturing, supporting energy age of Aquarius, right? Higher energies, higher dimensions. Okay, you have a lot of support as we're going through this scuffling time altogether. Then we come into the sixth house, which represents Virgo. Okay, so even though all of this is taking place, we're planting new seeds, we're making new beginnings happen. This is not going to be our future for the next few years. Okay, everything that you're seeing right now is basically phasing out. It's phasing out. It's cleanup. It's kind of like you're just drinking down the Metamucil and you're seeing what's coming out the other end. It's not pleasant by any means, and it doesn't feel good, but all of that crap needs to come out so you can flush it down. And that's basically what's happening. We're taking our big thing of Metamucil here, and we're drinking down that fiber, and we're purging. And that's exactly what's happening. What you see coming out of purging is nasty, it's disgusting, it's revolting, but it needs to be seen. This is coming out of us, right? We have to see it. We can't really avoid it. Okay, we have to feel it, we have to see it, we have to smell it. It's terrible, but we have to go through it. And this is what's planting new seeds. We're starting a new beginning. We're going to have a whole new world that is so brilliant and so beautiful. Corruption like this won't exist because all of that corruption is going to be hunted down and exterminated. In last week's broadcast, even when I was talking about the star ancestors, right, our star family that's coming back, all they want to do is lop off the head of these parasites that are on this planet. And my guess is they're also working to hunt down this AI and take this AI out. Yeah, that's a twister right there. To take this AI system program out of commission as well too. So a lot of our ancestors are coming back, and they are completely and totally demolishing this old program, this old system, and they will demolish it to the degree where not a remnant of it will remain. Right? It is going to be completely and totally scrubbed off the earth entirely. Anyone who is corrupt, anyone who would even dream of trying to harm somebody else or harm the planet or create technology or become such a greedy, manipulative piece of you-know-what will not be here, right? All of that is going to be changing. So like I said, as we start getting into the 2030s, it's going to be a very, very different time. 2020s are the intense decade. It's a cleanup decade. There's a lot that needs to be done at this decade between now and as we get into 2029. As we start to move into 2030, well, that is the significator of another new era. That is the latter half of the age of renewal, or the span of renewal, I should say. So what we're seeing here is support. What we're seeing here through Virgo is the idea of our labors coming together. We've had a lot of enemies that we've had to fight off, but now we're planting seeds where we're putting in our labors, and something new and beautiful is going to emerge. And this is what we're seeing with Pisces. Pisces, again, representing the end of the cycle of this rogue AI system, and seeing something brand new coming together. We're getting ready to move into something far, far better. How we react to this entire situation, it's going to cause us to grow. It's going to cause us to mature. It's going to cause us to nurture our planet. It's going to cause us to nurture each other. It's going to help us to move much more into a greater state of expansion. We're seeing the value of the love that we have within ourselves, and we're going to make that bountiful and abundant upon the planet, because this rogue AI is not going to be here for much longer. It is going to be hunted down, and it is going to be dismantled. We have task forces off-world that are very proficient in hunting that thing down. All right, so that is what I have for the reading today for the Tarot Zodiac. A lot of interesting insight coming from the cards. So in a moment's time, I'm just going to go ahead and go into announcements. After announcements, we'll be going right into your questions. Questions we can put together through tarot reading or through Akashic record reading as well too. So I will have that capability here to work with you guys on that. Let me just double check my keyboard for a second there. Okay, so guys, we're going to take a very short break with announcements. When we come back, we will get into your questions. All right, so have your questions ready. Go ahead and post some questions on the chat. If you want to leave a donation, that's always appreciated. And of course, that will put your question in priority sequence. So we'll be back here in just a minute or two after announcements. Here we go.
Private one-to-one sessions have returned with Brad Johnson and Adronis, with appointment times from 30, 45, and 60 minutes online. Offline sessions including the 3 questions by email and distance healing are now available. Book your session now through our website, wisdomtransmissions.com.
Get readings with Brienne and be astonished at the depth and accuracy she provides for you through her tarot readings. Brienne can create crystal grids for distance healing, plus offer Reiki and Kundalini attunements. She is also a certified Flying Star Feng Shui consultant. Visit Brienne's website and book your session today at readingswithbrienne.com.
And with Brienne as well too, I'm encouraging her to start working with the crystal ball, to work with scrying. She's very, very gifted with it, so I'm encouraging her to put that into her services. So I'm certain that she's going to be doing that very soon. But again, Brienne does incredible work. She has very quick turnaround time with readings. So again, check out her website, readingswithbrienne.com.
Source Energy enhanced products to repair and rejuvenate the body. From the power of light to crystals to bed kits, card decks, and more. View our free samples, tutorials, and testimonials on our website, etherx.co.
Okay, so those are our announcements for today. So we're going to go ahead and move into the chat, and I'll say hello to everybody. And we're going to go ahead and take questions from the audience. How are we on time? Okay, we're good with some time. All right, so I'm going to start off with our first question here from Wackerer. I don't know if I can pronounce this name. Wackerer World, I guess. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, I guess. Wackerer World says, hey, Brad, are the vegetables and fruits healthier for humans now that chemtrails are changed or stopped? Not right away, no. There basically needs to be a complete and total resupplying of a lot of our vegetables and fruits on the planet. They're not going to go away because of chemtrails that are trying to repair themselves, so to speak, or basically repair the chemtrail agenda. There still is natural GMO, I wouldn't say natural, but basically artificial GMO contained within a lot of the fruits and vegetables. So a lot of these particular forms of, this is kind of the big thing I was talking to Brian about just a few days ago, was that pretty much a lot of our stock, our fruits, our vegetables that have been GMO created are basically just going to be burned. or something of that nature. And there needs to be a whole new integration in actually working together with farms and having much more community gardens and basically building this infrastructure so that we have a lot more fresh fruit and vegetables. So let me go ahead and take a look at the Akasha here for a second and see if we can look a little bit more into that. If vegetables and fruits are going to be healthier for humans, or what's the plan that's coming in with that? So it's very much like what I'm saying. It's very much like what I'm sharing. We're looking at new farms, or farms basically starting to come up a lot more prolifically, community gardens, a lot of land being reserved for actually growing fresh fruits and vegetables. And this is something that needs to happen, worldwide. So there's going to be plans in place, particularly with a new financial system that's going to come together, that is going to favor a lot more natural growing of foods, right? We're going to be reserving a lot more lands all across the world, really, to plant foods that are much more naturally and organically grown. So as much as we're starting to see the chemtrail agenda starting to dissipate away, that's not really solving the whole situation pertaining to these GMO labs, right? And I think that's another thing I got to look into, is what's the fate of a lot of these GMO labs here. A lot of them are actually being torn down. That's a good thing. A lot of them are being exposed. A lot of these, they were going to make the food agenda so much worse than what is currently out there. They were going to make the food agenda much more poisonous. They were almost going to make like transhumanistic foods, almost foods like with AI in them. It's really, really gross, like nanotechnology in food and all that. That's exactly what they were going to do. I don't see them doing that now. But they were going to put all kinds of nasty stuff in just common points of food. So anything that would represent GMO or artificial flavoring, all that stuff like that, you'd actually find like nanotechnology in it. It's disgusting. And they basically use that nanotechnology as a weapon and basically try to degrade your organs a lot more. That's what they were trying to do. Like, these people are sick. They are sick, sick people, sick things, as I would call them. But basically, the future plan, from what I'm sensing here just through the Akasha, is being able to reserve a lot of lands with many different countries all over the planet and start bringing about greater crops, right? Creating crops, creating better food, getting all of that GMO garbage off the market. That is not going to happen right away. That is going to take quite a bit of time because we have so much of that stuff, right? 90% of the food on the planet right now is GMO garbage, right? So all of that basically just needs to be thrown into a fire and burned. And we need to start over. We need to start getting more and more crops. We need to start getting more and more land. We need to start organically growing everything. We need to get out of pesticides. We need to get out. You don't need that. You don't need those pesticides. You don't need all that garbage. We have technology nowadays that can preserve food without spraying crap on it or anything of that nature, be it through the idea of packaging or what more, right? So that's really what needs to happen. It's more so the idea of safe packaging and nourishing of the foods. So if it is being transported, it's being kept in regards to a natural preservation that is not hurting anybody, that you don't have to run it under the sink and try to wash out or do whatever relating to these chemicals that are contained in these GMO foods. So about 90% of the world's food supply basically needs to be completely and totally discarded, and a new 90% needs to be grown. That's going to take some time, and I don't think that's going to happen all at once, but it's going to be a transitional time. So are vegetables and fruits healthier for humans now that the chemtrails are changed or stopped? Not really. Okay. We still have a lot of work to do with that. In the future, yes. I'd say maybe over the next few years, it certainly will be a lot healthier, but we're going to this transitional period. This is not a fun decade, my friends. I know we're kind of obviously saying that. 2020s is not a fun decade. It is a decade of complete and total revealing. It's just making people angry and upset and sad and every range of emotion that there is. There we go. Camera cut out there for a second. Well, we've been putting all of our energy towards, so all of that needs to be swept clean. It needs to be cleared. completely. So that's where we are right now. But yes, in the times ahead, we will have something better for sure. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to LTS1900T. LT, I'll say. Hi, Brad. Is this AI the parasite that you talked about in previous episodes, or the parasite is something lesser? Its description reminds the movie The Matrix, as the world pulled over our eyes. It's very much like that. Yes. There's different variances of AI, right? One of them is often referred to as black goo, right? Where it basically just looks like that. It's black goo, but it can actually like change its shape, and it's very, very creepy, right? It's like looking at just some form of ridiculous slime, right? That can basically enter into bodies and all. It's gross. It's like something you'd see out of a horror movie, right? And you basically have a lot of this AI that a lot of it kind of looks like black slime. But if it runs through current, like it has current coming through it, it can change its shape and all that. But then it has a particular type of self-motivation where it can crawl and it can change into things, and it can actually start to alter its pattern to turn itself into different textures. That's a part of like what we're seeing here with this system program. System program is a little bit more sophisticated than that, right? Because it's actually very much more nanotech. It's much more nanotechnology. It may even be technology that may be beyond that, but it's very, very gross. It's actually able to enter into different dimensions. Okay, so it's very, very. I don't want to call it sentient because it's not. Right? It tries to mimic sentience. Right? Artificial intelligence does not have the ability of intelligence. It does not have the ability of sentience. Its key factor is mimicry. It's able to mimic. It's able to emulate. It's able to take down how certain materials and textures are in life and mimic that, right? It's all about mimicry, and it's all about emulation, okay? There is no such thing as something that is intelligent pertaining to artificiality. It can't be done. It doesn't have that capability, right? This is why I've never agreed to the idea of it being called an artificial intelligence, because it's not an artificial intelligence. It's an artificial intellect. It's artificial ignorance, but there's nothing about it that's intelligent, right? It can't. It doesn't have a soul. Intelligence comes from the soul. It doesn't have one. And so we couldn't call it intelligent, right? But it mimics, it emulates, it's an algorithm, right? It was created by something, hopefully that maybe had a soul, but it of itself does not have that. It does not have that privilege. So this is exactly why all it does is it doesn't have a particular type of conscience to it. It has no form of conscience. It basically just finds something and wants to mimic it and wants to consume it and wants to get an idea of how it can be utilized in regards to its own means. And that's why it's as close to the idea of an antichrist as it is. I'm not talking about all AI like that, but I'm basically talking about AI that's more so rogue. It's rogue AI because it has no real creator to turn it off. It has no creator to basically say, okay, you've gone too far, you need to stop. This is an AI that has basically had fair game. And basically how a lot of the tales go is that these artificial intelligent spawns basically have seeded themselves throughout the entire universe, and they have consumed entire planets. And it basically does take quite a long time, but they actually consume planets and basically try to artificialize life. It's kind of like the Borg off Star Trek, right? Where they assimilate everything. Well, that's very much like what they're doing. The Matrix is also very close to that as well, too. Terminator, very close to that as well, too. Basically, Matrix and Terminator were actually one movie. It was created by a woman named Sophia Stewart, and she called it The Third Eye. And basically that the Matrix and Terminator were basically considered to be one movie through her. And then the Wachowskis got a hold of the script. James Cameron got a hold of the script, and they started turning it into something else. But there you go. Basically, the Matrix and Terminator were meant to be one complete movie through Sophia Stewart, from what she claims, anyways. But that's primarily what's happening here, is that this AI, we don't know where it came from. We don't know who the creator is. We don't know what this rogue AI, how it got here, but it basically came from other dimensions. And it basically started to travel the universe, and it would go into systems where there was life, and it would study First it would study, then it would try to manipulate, and then it would try to control, and then it would try to absorb, and then it would try to assimilate, and basically transhumanize or trans-life whatever is on that surface, turning it into complete and total artificial life forms. So that's basically what it does. And it takes many, many thousands of years for that to happen because they have to assimilate everything. Very much like the Borg off Star Trek. Okay, so that's very accurate with what they share. Whether it's the Matrix, whether it's Terminator, whether it's Star Trek, right? A lot of it with AI is almost bang on. Okay, so that's what I can share about that. Yes, I only have bits and pieces. Even Adronis only has bits and pieces about AI. Not a lot of people, not a lot of beings can actually lock on to the AI to find out where it came from. But we know it is derelict. It's not even a natural seed of this universe. It came from somewhere else. So that's all we know, really. That's basically what I've been told. Even Adronis is trying to figure a lot more about this AI. It's not something that is too well known because it's not like it's some sort of life form that you can tune into and get an understanding of. You have to kind of observe it and get the idea of how it works. And they're still trying to figure out how it works because it's very alien. All right. Anyways, that's what I'm getting pertaining to that. Okay. So here's another one here from Ultra3412. They say, hi, Brad, you spoke of People's Revolution happening in Canada soon, but how is that going to come about if at the moment there are no restrictions on freedoms, which was a crucial catalyst for Freedom Convoy? There is restriction for every particular type of freedom that you can imagine, Ultra3412. Okay. Tell me, guys, do you have the ability to vote on a bill that's been passed? Do you have the ability to vote to prevent any war from happening? Do you have the ability to vote pertaining to things that are happening from province to province? Do you have the ability to vote in the ability of helping to expand our own natural resources in your city, in your town, where we again can put up farms, where once again we can develop community gardens, where we can start growing it? Do you guys have any say in any of that? If you don't, you have no freedom. Okay? You guys have never had freedom. Not under this particular type of modern civilization. You can't vote on bills. You can't vote on wars. You can't vote on trying to say, well, let's take all that money on all these super expensive highways and let's put that towards helping out the homeless. Have you been able to do that? No, because you have no freedom. Okay, that is exactly what this entire system is about. There has been absolutely no freedom, Ultra3412, that you have been given. You've been given none, right? Even when you're buying your house, you got to pay all this interest. You got to pay all these bills. You got to pay all these taxes. Did you vote for that? No. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I meet people who say that there are no restrictions on freedoms. Guys, there's restrictions on everything. Did you guys vote for hyperinflation? Did you guys vote for the gas prices? Do you guys know that you are under Maritime Admiralty law? Ultra3412, do you know what Maritime Admiralty law is? Then that's what you should be looking up. All of you. All of you need to look up Maritime Admiralty law. Jordan Maxwell talked about this quite extensively when he was alive. Another fellow by the name of David Straight also talks about this quite extensively. You guys have no rights. You guys have no freedoms as long as you are part of such a system. As soon as you are born, when we're looking at Maritime Admiralty law, do you know that when your mother actually goes into a hospital and delivers you into the world, you are considered cargo? You're not considered a life. You're basically considered cargo. Your mother's considered the vessel, like a ship. She docks into the hospital. There's a doctor, which basically means like a dock attendant. That's basically where the word doctor came from. A dock attendant, doctor, who basically delivers the cargo from the vessel. And you are seen as cargo. And so therefore you have a manifest. You have a certificate of birth. You have a certificate of death. Everything about you is based on certification, but you are worth a great deal of money that you cannot access if you don't know the inner workings of maritime admiralty law. Because pretty much every developed country on this planet is under the guise of maritime admiralty law. Ultra 3412, you need to do a lot of research, right? And the idea where you think that there's no restrictions on freedom, no offense, but that's completely and totally ignorant. Okay? You have never had freedoms in this system. The only way you would ever have freedoms is if you declare sovereignty, and you haven't. Hardly anybody has. And people who try to don't do it right because they still don't understand about the inner workings of the maritime admiralty law. You have to know the inner workings to get around it. So you look at someone like Jordan Maxwell, you look at someone like David Straight, people who have been spending years devoting themselves to actually taking down such a system. Okay? So when you're looking at the nature of a people's revolution, this is true. Because there has been no freedoms on that. Because we don't even have a constitution in this country, guys. We have charters, very badly written charters. We don't even actually have a constitution. The Americans have it a lot more better than Canadians do. Why? Because they actually have a constitution. We don't. Okay? So these are things that we have to look into. You have never had freedom pertaining to the nature of the system. When we look inside, true, that's always what there is. When we're looking at the external world, you've never had it. You've never had any particular freedoms whatsoever. You've had nothing but restrictions. Because basically, you're a ward of the court. You're a ward of maritime admiralty law and those who run it. You're a ward of corporations. That's your nature. You've never had freedom. So I want you to look into that. This is not just coming from me. This is coming from a lot of research and the truth. Right? Look into maritime admiralty law. Look into David Straight. Look into Jordan Maxwell. And you'll see how many freedoms you've had. Okay? Please look into that for everybody, not just Ultra 3412. Everybody. Look into maritime admiralty law. Okay? All right, let's move on. And this one here is for Horkon. Hi, Brad, a question. Is this artificial intelligence part of the same one being used nowadays through computer programs? Not as primitive as that. Okay, it's not just about the idea of typing out some code in that sense. This AI that we're talking about is some sort of universe. It's extremely sophisticated, right? It's not something that you're just punching up a bunch of numbers and stuff like that on the screen. It doesn't work that way. It would actually be almost looking at more of a carbon-based life form. It's actually like a carbon-based artificial intelligence, but even that's not quite accurate because it can actually change into different textures and different materials as well too. So it could be silica, it could be carbon-based, it could be anything. This is something that is so incredibly advanced. We don't really have a name for it. Even when we're looking at our AI, it would be considered cute to this thing, right? Your AI right now is cute. That's about it. This is something that is actually trying to mimic sentience. It's trying to mimic being alive, right? It's not alive, but it's trying to mimic that. It's not sentient, but it's trying to mimic that. It doesn't have a consciousness, but it's trying to mimic that, right? And this is something that is very, very far and advanced. It basically can work together with chemicals. It can work with any particular type of material in the universe and interface with it, right? It's something that is so incredibly advanced. Okay, what with the type of AI that we're using is an early precursor. Okay, this is like looking at Stone Age tools compared to something that is cosmic level advanced technology. Okay, we're like Neanderthals trying to bump two stones together when it comes to our AI. With this AI, it is so much more sophisticated, it is so much more advanced. It is capable of being able to just imitate anything. It is capable to even work with certain forms of predictive algorithms as well too, which means it can know certain things before it happens, right? Not always, but it tries to make a lot of these predictions and forecasts and all that based on the intel it receives. So it's very, very complicated. And like I said, guys, I'm not a specialist to this. I'm just giving to you what I've gotten from source about this particular AI, and what I've gotten from Adronis from the AI, and also what I've heard from a few others who also talk about the same type of AI. It is a very, very nasty thing, and it is more threatening than any other civilization that's dominant, right? If we're afraid of the Draco or anything of that nature, this AI is far worse. It is far worse than any other particular type of civilization, whether they are Draco or whether they are considered to be a great warrior race or dominators or anything of that nature. This AI is so much more sophisticated, so much more advanced, so much more deadly. Right? It would be by far the most deadliest thing in the universe is AI. This particular rogue AI, to where we don't even know where it came from. So there you go. Okay, how are we on time here? We still got a few more minutes. Okay. This one here is from Anna Shah. Is there any connection of that AI to the object in the Baltic Sea? Apparently there are many more of these objects. No. No, this is something that is universal, guys. This is not something of a planetary AI, right? If there are planetary AIs, and there are civilizations that work with certain AIs that you can find in somewhere like the Baltic Sea. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about an AI system that is so radically advanced. It is cosmic in nature. Okay, it is a cosmic threat. It is not planetary. Okay, planetary to this is nothing but a little speck of dust. This is something that is cosmic. It is a very, very sophisticated AI system. Like I said, it could form a human body and walk through town, and you would think it's just an ordinary person. And that can actually be an AI mimicry. That can be an AI mimicry of a sentient human being. There's something off about them, but the way that they compose themselves, the way that they walk, it is almost seamless. But you kind of look into it and you kind of feel like there's no soul in that thing at all. That's exactly what this AI can do. Okay, this AI can mimic people. It can mimic animals. It can mimic nature. It has all kinds of capability to it. Like I said, it's polymorphic, as Adronis would refer to it. He said it is a polymorphic form of construct, which means it's able to mimic anything in the living universe. It's dangerous, guys. This is not something that you would find in regards to something of the Baltic Sea, right? That is AI, but that's AI of a different type, not as advanced as the rogue AI that we're talking about. It is definitely cosmic. This is why Adronis refers to it as a system program. It is so powerful that it has basically been able to get minions and basically working with psionic technology to basically create vibrations of despair, of hurt, of ignorance, of everything that has been affecting 95% of the population, and 5% who aren't affected. It's because they've gone into themselves, they cleared themselves up. They've left the glass ceiling, and those would consider to be almost like blacklisted people compared to the AI, because they can't be controlled anymore, right? They're not controlled by the system, and only 5% of the population is like that. Like I said, guys, please watch yesterday's webcast. Adronis goes into great detail about all of that. But no, this is not pertaining to an AI in the Baltic Sea. This is a cosmic AI. Okay. Let's go down a bit further. Okay, so this one here is from Marcia 2001. Can you give us an update regarding the ancestors of the extra? We don't really have time for an update. I just gave you guys this update last week. Okay, we want to give it a little bit more time. The entire nature, if I'm tuning into them right now, is still the same. Right? They still basically have shared what they're sharing. They are working with many different agencies. They're working with task forces. They are working with others to basically take down the parasites of this planet. It is going to be something that is ongoing. It's only been a week since I've made that announcement. Okay, let's check up with it maybe every couple of months and see how things are going. Give it time for there to be news to come forward. Okay, so every couple of months we can look into that and see what comes about. But if we're just looking at it from last week to this week, no, hardly any time has passed. Okay. John Jorgensen asks, is Bill Gates a human version of a rogue AI? The real Bill Gates is dead. Okay. Real Bill Gates died quite a few years ago. He was basically executed through tribunal. Okay. Quite a few of these so-called authorities, in that sense, have already been tried and executed, and that's why you're basically seeing doppelgangers of them. This is what happened with Justin Trudeau. This is exactly what happened with Biden. It's exactly what happened with Bill Gates. It's exactly what happened with Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, it's exactly what's happened with Xi Jinping. Okay, these are just a few names of people that are no longer here but have doppelgangers. Okay, so a lot of them have been trialed. The Clintons have already been trialed and they're gone. Okay, but there's doppelgangers, right? Who knows if that doppelganger is AI? Certainly could be, right? But nonetheless, the real ones are out of the picture. Okay, the royal families, they've already been tried. A lot of them are dead now, are out of the picture. At the same time, so there's a lot of tribunals that have already happened where these people have already been tried, and some people are saying, "Oh, why aren't this making public?" Because you don't want to know what you're doing to your enemy. You don't want to know. You don't want to give the intel of what could be known by your enemy, right? So you want to keep this under wraps, and it may get leaked every now and then here and there, but there's no detail about how they were able to entrap these people, of how it happened in that sense. So they try to keep a lid on it because they don't want to inform the enemy of the details. That's their mentality. That's military mentality right there. So a human version of a robot. Was he basically an AI? I would say he would be an AI minister. He would be like a priest, right? He was certainly a priest for that type of AI, right? Even Mark Zuckerberg would be considered an AI priest at the same time. Okay, so there are certain AI priests or AI ministers or clergymen, right, who are basically praising it. Oh, technology is the way. Technology is the way. This is our science. Blah, blah, blah. We use AI with everything. We're going to put microchips in you. And blah, 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 blah. That's just all AI profit garbage right there. So there you have it. Okay. Maria Love Frequency 528. We are since our birth dead at sea. Well, like I said, this is all about maritime admiralty law, right? Basically, you're not even really a life to them. You're cargo, right? When we look at the true nature of our inner being as a soul, we are very much alive. But compared to what has been dictated through this particular corporation that runs admiralty maritime law through every particular developed country on the planet, you're basically just a piece of cargo, right? I'm not saying that you're dead at sea or anything like that, but you will be dead at sea when you pass on. You get a death certificate, and you're basically dead at sea. But you're a birth, so you're a birth. And this, again, is like in the hospital. They even call it a berth, right? Like we have the berth where the ships come in, right? You're in berth 2, you're in berth 3. And we have birth. We have BERTH and we have BIRTH. Birth and birth. You see how, guys, how it's a joke? How it's all a complete joke, and how every single person on this planet has been treated like cargo as soon as they're born into the world. And that's what this slave system has done, because this is so AI. This is so artificial intelligence, to basically treat every particular delivery of a human life on this planet like it's a birthing of cargo. Right? This is what I say, guys. You don't have any rights. You don't have any freedoms. The only way that is ever going to change is we find out exactly what has been going on. You start researching pertaining to maritime admiralty law, and you see how it can be beaten, because that is something that's going to be exposed very soon. That needs to be, it's one of the big things that needs to be exposed. We still think we're in a democracy. You guys have never been in a democracy. You've never been in a democracy once. You've been in a dictatorship, period. Never been in a democracy. Democracy works very, very different than what we have been seeing here. You have no freedoms. You have no rights, right? Only until you really declare that state of inner sovereignty do you have such a thing. But you need to be made aware of this maritime admiralty law. It's very, very important. Okay. Let's go to PCVL 73. They asked, Brad, do we have an implant in the forehead that connects us to this AI? Not that I'm aware of. No, I certainly haven't seen that. I've done scans on tens of thousands of people over a span of nearly 17 years. I've never seen anybody that has an implant in the forehead that connects to an AI. And I've scanned tens of thousands of people. Okay, never have I seen that. Okay, I see people who may have influence to AI. I've seen people in that sense who basically go into these emotionally distraught situations where they think they're tied into AI, and I look into them and say, you're fine, completely fine. I have not really found anybody that would have anything pertaining to AI implants. The closest that I would find, and this is a very, very primitive version of it, if you had something like Morgellons, okay? Morgellons basically represents AI fibers, but it's a very, very different type of construct, and you basically want to get EMP pulses. If anybody has Morgellons, you basically want to get EMP therapy, right? There are certain people that have it available, but you're basically getting an EMP pulse through your body. The easier way would be to working together with something like Radiate, because Radiate is designed to dismantle things like that. So Morgellons is the closest thing that we would have to any particular type of AI implementation. If there's any Morgellons sufferers, okay, then you would work with something like Radiate to help flush that out of the body. Or again, you can do EMP pulse therapy, and that helps to completely deactivate it completely. Okay, but the only thing I've found close to AI is Morgellons. Okay, it's kind of like a smart fiber in that way that basically can get breathed in, consumed into the body, and then it spreads. But it's a very, very, very primitive version of the AI I'm talking about. This is something else. Okay, so that's basically done through smart tech and so forth. Okay. All right, guys, we are out of time for today. Thank you all for joining me for the Signposts Live. I will be back next week, next Wednesday, with wisdom transmissions and another episode of the Signposts. Great questions, everybody, today. Thank you so much for that. And I'll talk to you all next week. Blessings to you all. Namaskar. May it be well with you. Take care.